Thank you for tuning into the Electric Church Podcast. Back again for another episode. The amazing and talented David Cobbs.
Hola.
How are you doing today, brother?
Wonderful. It's nice and early. Got coffee.
Yeah, coffee and Irish cream. It is Sunday. What is the date today? I'm trying to date these things. June 14th, 2020. You understand we're recording this conversation and we're going to publish it on YouTube and perhaps other platforms?
Yes, I absolutely give my legal consent to do so.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. All right. Well, it's the Electric Church. We're here to discuss politics, philosophy, electric entertainment. Dave, what you want to talk about today?
Oh, God. I don't know. The fuckery of America, which kind of encompasses everything, I guess. One thing that I find kind of interesting since the protests of George Floyd's death is the recent development in Seattle where a bunch of protesters took over what was it, 6 square city blocks or something.
Is what I heard, yeah.
They got a police precinct and something else, but I don't really know which group of protesters have taken it over. It seems like there's multiple reports that it's Black Lives Matters protesters, but then I've heard that it's Antifa, and I don't really know.
Yeah, and I've also heard that there's no affiliation with any groups, that this is just their own autonomous doing. I guess so they put up walls or barriers, at least.
Yes, barriers. Checkpoints.
And have armed people walking around. Is Washington an open carry state?
I believe it is.
Okay, that's one of the things I was wondering for sure.
I'm not positive, but I think it is.
But boy, that's really interesting. That sounds an awful lot like Soviet Union fascist style.
It does, and I'm not really sure what their end goal is here. So I don't really have an opinion on what their demands are. However, I respect the action. Mm-hmm. It's kind of our government isn't serving the people the way that our Constitution intended it to serve the people. So that's kind of hey, screw you, we're going to do it our way, mm-hmm. which is kind of what we told Britain, 200 and some years ago.
Sure.
So
I don't see much difference than this. I see a little, I definitely see some difference, but I see a lot of similarities between this and I believe it was the Bundys and I can't remember who else, but took over a Federal Reserve building. Or not a Federal Reserve, excuse me, a
land management or something.
Yeah, land management, that was it, yep. I see a lot of similarities. There's a lot of differences too, I think occupation of a single federal building in protest of the federal government is a lot more
acceptable
valid than just sort of taking city blocks that belong to private individuals or companies or...
and that kind of goes back when the rioting and looting was happening in Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. When private businesses were getting burned and looted, mm-hmm. I had an issue with that. Mm-hmm. Now, when they directed their anger at the police
precinct, sure,
and burned that down, I understood and I actually respected that. I wasn't even opposed to it. The anger and the frustration was being directed at the establishment that represents.
Yep.
And
exactly. Like in the war in 1812, when the British invaded the USA, they burned down the White House.
Yeah.
They didn't burn down Washington, D.C. They didn't scorch earth the United States, or
No, it was.
they attacked.
It was a moral attack.
Yeah,
it was,
exactly. Yep. So yeah, I agree. I totally understand. Yeah, I think when protests turn to riot, and destruction of private property ensues versus, if you wanna protest and surround, the state capitol, and I'm not in favor of pulling down statues of Columbus in riots, but it's a thing I
understand.
I understand it. Exactly. Yep. Yeah, and I think at least your anger is directed in the right place, whereas destruction of private property is not going to help you at all. Just like blocking the highway when Black Lives Matter did that. It's like, well, you're not helping anybody by stopping them in traffic for hours. You're not going to get people on your side by annoying them. You're not going to get people on your side by burning down their business. How many businesses have already decided not to rebuild in Minneapolis? I think that this could fundamentally change Minnesota into a swing state, because I think enough population might move outside of the urban areas into the rural areas, which vote far more Republican in Minnesota and in general in the United States. And if they lower the population enough, they could change the way that Minnesota votes in presidential elections.
That is true. And I just had a brain fart. What was I going to say?
I'm sorry, I don't know. That's why I gave you a pen and paper, man. So
I know.
Write down thoughts and you don't forget them. My bad. I had a point and I didn't want to lose it.
No, I totally understand. I know what it had to do with the protests and blocking the streets. I guess, this time around, blocking the streets didn't bother me. But then again, they also had closed the highways down. They knew it was going to happen, so they did it, which
that doesn't
it
bother
was
me.
very symbolic, and to actually have that many people in such an open area and being able to see it was, it invoked emotional response.
And when the highway is closed because of the protests and you move the protests to the highway, and previously riots have burned down private buildings, I'm okay with you go ahead and march up and down that closed highway all you want, because there's nothing you're going to burn down there.
I just remembered my point that I was going to get to.
Perfect.
Due to the rioting and looting, I think we need to make the point in the differentiation between the protesters that are protesting righteously, as opposed to the very small percentage of the quote-unquote agitators that are using this scenario. They're gonna do fuckery anyways, and they're using this as an excuse to do fuckery.
Yeah, I would call this situational extreme crime.
And yes, there are people that get involved in it.
Because of the extenuating circumstances, there's perfectly legitimate reason to protest. There's a great reason to protest, actually. But there's a distinct difference. Protests are always peaceful, right? I don't think you can have an angry protest, but inherently, I think
it's still peaceful.
It's still peaceful, even if it's angry, right? Because I believe that words can never be violence, right? So once you cross that line into destruction, you're no longer a protest. You are now a riot. So you can become you can go from being a peaceful protest to an angry protest to rioting, but those are definitely all very distinct, different things.
Okay, speaking of once you enter into violence, you are no longer protesting or rioting. What is your take on the Minneapolis police caught on camera slashing individuals' private vehicle tires to keep them in place so that they could tow them at a later date and bring charges upon people?
There's video of that?
Yes.
Wow. They're
destroying private property.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. That's. I guess that's the only take I have on it. The police, they're supposed to protect or destruction of property is criminal, no matter if it's done by an agent of the state or another individual. So yeah, they're engaging in criminal behavior and should be prosecuted. I heard several conflicting reports about. I heard they deflated tires, like deflated them.
Yep.
And I heard they slashed them, and I hadn't. I haven't heard enough detailed reports or read enough detailed reports about it, and it's not something that I'm going to spend a lot of time investigating either, because that's ultimately like philosophy. It breaks down to that philosophically, one way or another, whether they're guilty of it or not. That's where it lies, in my opinion, is it's destruction of property, and as agent of the states, they should not be engaging in it. They should be prosecuted for it. And I think that's the kind of thing that needs to, when cops do engage in criminal behavior, I think it needs to, that's where the qualified immunity, Justin Amash is trying to end this.
Yep.
Something else we were going to progress into here. I think we need to radically change how we treat police. As a community, what we expect from them, how they train. There needs to be a lot of radical changes.
Police need to stop being used as a strong arm force or to collect money as a revenue for their municipality.
Absolutely, because that's the feeling. That's the feeling. Because even if you're completely innocent, and even if you're white, you can get very nervous getting pulled over.
Oh God, I hate cops. As far as when I see them behind me, I get nervous. I don't.
Yeah. And that should not be our reaction. A community's reaction should not be fearful of the
having
police.
to deal with the police.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and I'm no expert in the subject, but obviously de-escalation training needs to happen. Like every single cop, not like we train the captains and the captains go back and they train and that kind of bullshit. That's the kind of stuff that happens in. Well, I know, for instance, in the restaurant industry, managers need to be serve safe certified and need to pass this test and know all of these, rigorous things about, time sensitive food, et cetera, how to not make people sick. But only the managers need to know how to do that. It's up to them to train the employees.
No, they all need to go through it and know it.
And I kind of think every person who's working a line, not servers, but the cooks, need to be serve safe certified. I think the same thing with cops. Cops need to go through annual de-escalating training. Every single one of them. I think they should have monthly psychological reviews, more after a traumatic accident, not just they were in a shooting, they responded to a traffic accident and there was several children that were, dead or horribly mangled or what, what I mean? It's a tough job, and I think this tough guy thing of, I'm fine and I don't need to, see a shrink or talk about these issues. I think that needs to just be completely dissolved and it just needs to be mandatory. It just needs to be mandatory.
Yeah, and I'm not opposed to that. I also I think that the rules for force need to be drastically changed.
Absolutely.
I'm a firm believer, and I've been stating this for a couple of years now. I don't believe police should be allowed to use deadly force unless they are first fired on. I know that does potentially put them at a higher risk initially.
But that puts them at the same risk as everybody else who carries.
That, and it will immediately end any and all of this bullshit of, I thought he had a gun. No, screw you.
Yep.
Or he reached into his pocket. Well, did he shoot at you? No. Well, then guess what? You're in deep shit.
Yeah.
And beyond that, if the suspect does not have a gun, if they have a knife or a baseball bat or a 8-foot-long sword, I don't really care. You don't get to use deadly force. Yep. You tase them.
Yep.
End of the story.
Yep. Mace, Taser, absolutely. Yeah, anything but a gun. Yep.
I also think
Oh, they need to get rid of those sticks too if they still have
the
those
baton
sticks.
thingies,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, those just shouldn't exist. Yeah, and and you think about it's being represented so much as a racial thing, and race might be an element to it, but ultimately the reason he was able to lean on him, put his body weight on his neck, and kill that man in the streets in front of witnesses, being filmed, was because he was a cop, was because he was an agent of the state. It didn't, if that would have just been a white guy doing that to a black guy, people would have stopped him. It would have never
Exactly.
gotten anywhere.
Someone would have jumped in, kicked him, pushed him, whatever.
Exactly. But because he was a cop and because he's a representative of the government, like attacking him is a major felony. You can't even, you can't even stop him from killing somebody.
No.
That's the sort of qualified immunity bullshit that Justin Amash wants to get rid of. Yeah. Anyways, I guess I don't know a ton about the bill, so I guess I shouldn't talk about it a ton. But
it's one of the issues.
It's definitely, I think, something that it would help clean up policing for sure.
I'm also a fan of body cams, and none of this you're able to turn it on or turn it off as you want. No, you start your shift, you check out a camera, that camera gets turned on, and that camera records until you turn it in at the end of your shift.
Yep.
And not only does it record, it also simultaneously uploads into a cloud server. That way, there's less ability to tamper with evidence.
Sure. Yeah. And I don't understand why there's only one angle.
Right?
Why isn't there a body cam on their back as well, so that there's none of this? He came up from behind me, or you know what I mean? Like there's no. If there's two body cams on you and they've got a big wide angle like a GoPro, and can almost see 180 degrees, and you've got two of those, there's no hiding.
If I can do that with my telephone, why can't our police and our government have that standard?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, we can film NFL in 360 degrees. We can have 300-plus degrees view of police officers, and it's the sort of thing where, you only need to phase this in for so long before it becomes obsolete because the police are changing their behavior. There's no doubt you're going to start acting differently when anything you've done wrong is going to be exposed and it's right there on camera.
I think another good idea would be, especially in some of your more urban communities, is and even a smaller community like ours, we need to get back to actually having quote-unquote beat cops.
Oh, yeah.
Where you have your 10 square blocks, 15, 20 square block radius, where you're actually out walking your neighborhood, building those relationships with the community, getting to know them personally, getting to know their family, and have an understanding and empathy to the people that you're directly helping with.
Here's a really crazy idea. Let's say someone is 18 to 21 years old. They are in a minority neighborhood, and let's even say they're 16 to 21 years old, right? And they're what we would call an impressionable youth, right? And they get busted by the police for selling some weed, stealing a TV, whatever, right? Some minor infraction. Rather than treat that kid like a hardened criminal and send him to juvie and, backing up to the cop and the way they treat him, right? Rather than treating this kid like a criminal, like, a scourge in the community, how about you treat him like a human being? You talk to him. You tell him, hey, man, come on. You're better than this. You got potential. You're young, And we actually devise a program to get kids who commit minor infractions in those early years of their lives, rather than punishing them and putting them into the system where they will probably stay. We actually give them an alternative to go to school to become a community police officer. where they don't carry a gun. They are a beat cop, and they take care of the issues that people with guns don't have to, right? And they become a person in their community who has that respect, who is protecting their community, and they're able to take pride in their community and make it better rather than just continue to engage in criminal behavior and make things worse. Crazy idea, I know, right? Make criminals cops. Yeah, I know.
It's not that crazy of an idea, though. I mean, I
don't think it is either, but that's exactly what other people would label it as.
I have a criminal record.
You're making criminals into cops.
I have a criminal record, and
are you a danger to the community?
No. Well, no. Not all of it at large. So. But I'm able to look at things differently, especially, God, once I got over my 40s, I'm able to look back at my own stupidity, and I take full responsibility for it. I make no excuses for the stupid shit I did when I was a kid and when I was younger. They were my dumb choices.
I started to become an adult at about age 34, 35. That's when I decided, maybe it's time I stop pretending like I'm 22.
You know what? Honestly, I think mine was probably, about 10 years ago or so. After I had got off probation for the last time, and I was kind of like, man, I don't want to be living. No, I want something more for my life. What the hell am I doing? But the B cop though, and having the, doing something like that with the kids wouldn't be a bad idea. Your community, you have the relationships, and you're able to look at kids, that are going to be in that same situation 5 years, 10 years down the line, and be a positive role model, and be, hey, you know what?
And the people who are like you, I'm pointing at you, but the person in that community, who have just sort of fallen into this because of the hardships of the community, and you're gonna know the people who are the kingpins at the top, who are selling the drugs, who are the real dangers to the community, and there you are, sort of this intermediary between the community and the. Like I say, the people with guns.
But okay, you talk about the drug dealers, kingpins and not. There's much, but there's so much of that.
We both agree that drugs should be legal, so that wouldn't even be the issue in this world.
There's so much crap like that would so be remedied if they would just legalize and regulate crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it's weird to talk about. It's weird to hear two conservatives. I guess, God, I would not label myself as a conservative. I think I'm a classic liberal. Maybe not quite liberal. Oh, you got a lot of grounds in the bottom there, brother.
It's all good.
They sink. Just don't take that last sip or you're going to need to brush your teeth. The dangers of a percolator.
I wouldn't call myself... Actually, I would call myself conservative. I'm a conservative-leaning independent. I don't want to...
I like to call myself a liberty-minded person because I don't want to, I don't even really like the label classic liberal or libertarian. Although I definitely am going to vote libertarian. Yeah.
I'm honestly, I'll probably vote libertarian on the federal level. On the state level, unfortunately... I feel that with this election cycle, I will be forced to actually vote for one of the duopoly candidates in certain seats, only due to issues and concerns that the opposite side want to impose that I am truly against.
What, you couldn't possibly mean voting out Governor Walz, could you?
He's not up for election this year.
I know, but...
No, I'm talking for representatives and stuff like that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I will... I'm a very ardent Second Amendment supporter, along with a very ardent legalization supporter. But this coming election, and for as much as I want legalization to be taken care of in Minnesota, the only way I see it happening anytime soon is if the Democrats get a monopoly in the Senate. They're not going to lose the House, but in the Senate and with the Democratic governor, they'll be able to push it through, which is great. I'd love that. However, there's also a lot of other things they want to push through concerning red flag gun laws and universal background checks that I am ardently opposed to even more than I am about legalization, because screw it. Whether it's legal or not, I'm going to smoke it, and I don't give a damn what people are going to say. But I have to fight against that Second Amendment stuff they want to pass, and the only way to do that is to make sure that we have a divided Congress. And if that means having to vote for a Republican in Senate or the House of Representatives, I'm going to have to do it.
So you're voting for Heinzman.
I will... I will.
God, yeah, the pain in your face.
But you know what, though? I respect Heinzman.
I do, too. I really wish he would discuss cannabis legalization in a realistic format.
You know what? I mean, I've discussed it with him, and I've built up that reputation with him a little bit, talking with it. And even though we are complete opposites on that issue, our discussions have always been respectful beyond.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
And now,
but he also isn't realistic on the issue whatsoever.
At times, no.
I mean,
no,
he
he's
literally
not.
presents Henry Anslinger era propaganda like gateway drug. I mean, he
does.
Yeah.
And he also approaches it from a moralistic issue, which is wrong.
Yeah.
However,
his like the fact that he will just sort of completely toss out the philosophy of liberty on this issue and yet apply it so stringently to other things like the Second Amendment.
You see, and that's why
I find that so disingenuous. Like, that is the thing that I dislike about the two parties so much.
The Republicans,
which is why I can't support Heinzman anymore. I have previously voted for him. He lost me at this point. His and it's not even his stance on cannabis legalization. It's his unwillingness to discuss it in a realistic manner, and his ability to just toss aside the philosophy of liberty and present, like I said, Henry Anslinger era propaganda.
You see, after this election, you know, because I've been involved with the Second Amendment resolution, you know, in Crow Wing County, and, you know, been out, you know, and so I built the relationship with him on an issue that we respect each other on and agree. So I will vote for him this election, because ultimately it doesn't matter, because the Democrats aren't going to lose control of the House. So that's irrelevant, but I know I built a semi-respectful dialogue relationship with them. And if he gets reelected, I like to approach the legalization topic with him, not from an aspect of him supporting it as far as voting to legalize it, but I would like to try to turn him to at least be willing to put it on the ballot and allow the people to decide.
Sure.
Which I think, for one, he's able to hold on to his principles and his beliefs, whether I agree with them or not. He doesn't have to sell out his beliefs. He's not voting for it. He's leaving it up to the people, which, from his political position, would be standing up for liberty. So, in a way, if he can see it from that point of view, it's a win-win for him.
I think that his opposition to it is strictly a financial one. And that is just my opinion, of course, but I think the people that either fund his campaign or the people other people in the GOP that help him with fundraising say either you're going to be opposed to this or we're going to find some other Republican to fill your seat that will.
I don't know about that, because I don't know Josh's personal life at all, really. But my understanding is that he lives a pretty straight edge lifestyle, as in he doesn't drink or anything.
Yep.
So it truly could just be his own personal belief system as well. Taking that into account. So I don't know, but we'll see. But Carrie Ruud, on the Senate, I will definitely have to vote for her to keep that majority in the Senate, only because I don't want the Democrats to ramrod push through there. And I don't want
the red
I don't
flag
like any
laws.
I don't like any political party typically to have power to just push their agenda through. Yeah. I don't want to see it happen.
Yep. Like I said, I'm probably voting Libertarian on for most seats. But yeah, when Walz comes up for re-election, which would be what, 2 years?
In 2 more years.
2 more years. I think I'm gonna vote for whoever the Republican is because I am so utterly disenfranchised with the way Walz handled COVID-19 and continues to handle it.
You know, and when he did his first 30-day peacetime emergency, I understood it given the facts that we knew at that time, and or I should say the lack of facts of what we knew.
Yeah.
It was understandable, justifiable to take these extreme precautions.
For sure.
But to continue as more and more facts are known and more studies and whatnot. I'm sorry. Yes, I understand it can be dangerous to certain people. I'm sorry, but you can get up and step out of your bed and slip and brawl and break a neck. Getting out of bed in the morning is about as statistically deadly as COVID.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess like the dangers of COVID were nowhere near as bad as the dangers of shutting down the entire economy.
No, the way they made COVID sound, I thought it was going to be.
Oh yeah, people were comparing it to.
I thought it was going to be Stephen King's The Stand.
Yep, exactly.
That people were dying in the street from Captain Trips.
Yep, 24 hours, and you're coughing up blood and dead. Yeah, I mean they. Oh yeah, did I ever send you that No Agenda podcast about called Gain of Function?
I don't know, maybe.
Oh my God, I can't believe how little this is being talked about. But Dr. Fauci was doing what's called gain of function research on coronavirus in bats in the United States. Which, I have a very peripheral understanding of this. Obviously, having listened to some podcasts and read some stuff, and it's in Newsweek too. So this is not like conspiracy theory bullshit or anything, right? So basically, they're running coronavirus through multiple bats, multiple times, trying to get the virus to mutate so that they can try to predict what the virus would look like in the future. And I think it was the CDC put a moratorium on this research in the United States because it was so dangerous, they said it can cause a pandemic. So Dr. Fauci spent about $3 million to move this research to
Wuhan, China.
Boom. Ding, ding, ding. Yes, indeed. And how this is not a huge story. So basically, I like to call him Dr. F because I like Dr. Frankenstein, Dr. Fauci, like the mad scientist who is most likely responsible for this pandemic, then gave us the advice to close down the entire world's fucking economy and then caused this world collapse. This man probably has more fucking blood on his hands than Genghis Khan, and he's still working for the government.
Well, government and all.
Yeah,
Speaking of the worldwide economy closing,
I guess Genghis Khan was technically government too at that point, right?
I guess. Speaking of the worldwide economy, remember way back when all this fuckery first started, it came out that there was a few senators and whatnot that had sold off a bunch of stock after they had gotten the report about all
Yeah.
Did you hear? I saw a blurb. It must have been a week or two ago. Anyway, they were not charged with any violations.
Yeah, well, they are under a completely different set of laws as usual.
Martha Stewart went to prison for that shit.
Yeah, insider trading. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Again, people that are elected officials just are not susceptible to these same laws because they have access to top secret information, etc. So basically, they said, okay, well, and it's funny actually. During the Obama administration, they actually passed a big law. Made like a big deal out of it that hey, we're not going to allow this anymore. But then what they did was, in the middle of the night, the next day, just passed another law gutting the previous law. And then, of course, that just doesn't get a lot of coverage.
Government's gonna government.
Yep. So basically, rather than not allowing elected officials to partake in the stock market, the way that, because they're not supposed to benefit from
their position.
Their position in power. So rather than just make them put this, in a trust with somebody else, because there's people who do this for a living.
That's their job.
That's their job, is to take care of these finances and these stocks. Rather than require somebody to do that, and for these legal officials to not have any involvement in it, or to say that you can't own any stocks as an elected official or whatever. They sold Jimmy Carter's fucking peanut farm, but we can't allow that shit anymore. So now they just allow basically these people with top secret information to sell their stocks and fucking avoid economic fucking catastrophe if they're. Oh yeah, what? It's insane. Steven Crowder did a investigation into like why is Nancy Pelosi so fucking rich? Well, she you can only take so much money from lobbyists, et cetera, gifts, et cetera. But again, like the rules are different for stock options. So Nancy Pelosi's made a ton of money off stock options from these companies, where like Google, Facebook, et cetera, fucking give her, these stock
Here's
options.
100,000 stocks. And then you turn around and sell them a year later. And, yeah.
Well, yeah, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years later, and you make. Yep. Make fucking bank, dude. Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's why we need term limits.
One of the many reasons, yes. Yes, indeed. I was telling this to Pete last time he was on. I think what we need to do is have a certain number of years that somebody can be elected at the state and federal level.
Yeah, I've thought about that, like.
Instead of having, like, 2 terms in Congress or, a 2-term limit or whatever, you have like 20 years at the federal level.
At whatever combination. So you need to like figure out your math. What do you want to aspire to? You got 20 years at the federal level. Are you going to, you generally start as a congressman, you move up to senator, but yeah. But you know what? I think there still needs to be a term limit aspect because otherwise you could spend 20 years literally in one and get to that position. Whereas if you're like limited, because senators are 6 years?
6 years. 6 years.
Okay, and are the federal level representatives are what?
Well,
4?
see, I don't. No, federal. No, it's 2 years. It's only 2. I think it needs to be moved to 4, and I don't think so, because I think if you want to spend your entire career as just a congressman, and you want to represent your district, and you want to rep your district really well, and not aspire to a higher office, I think that is very admirable. And if you want to spend 20 years as a congressman and you want to max out, you got 20 years at the federal level, and you want to spend all 20 years focusing on just trying to make your district better, and your district sees that you are trying to accomplish this, if not doing it, and they keep electing you for 20 years, I think that's perfectly acceptable. Well, it wouldn't even be 20 years, because if you got 4-year terms, you'd be looking at you'd be 18, you'd be maxing out at.
You see, and I understand that, but at the same time, our government wasn't designed to be a quote-unquote career.
Yeah.
You were supposed to go...
20 years is no career, though. But
if they're doing 20 years and they get a full pension,
that's
but the
pension needs to just go
bye-bye. Yeah.
Pension just needs to go away.
It needs to go. You can enter the Social Security program like anyone else, or you can set up your own private.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. There's so much reform that needs to happen. And I mean,
see, I was thinking,
how does, and this is where I sort of understand this anarchist, Antifa, like just tear the whole fucking thing down thing, because how it's such a monumental aspect, like so much needs to be changed about government to improve society as a whole.
No, I understand their whole burn it to the fucking ground and start over. I've used the analogy multiple times. Burn it down and rise from the ashes like a phoenix. be something better. My only issue with Antifa is they use the exact same tactics that they say they're opposing
Absolutely,
to try
yeah.
to push their views.
Absolutely, yeah. That's my number one criticism
Come on,
of
don't
as
be
well.
don't be a hypocrite.
Yeah, it's newspeak. It's 1984 newspeak. They call themselves anti-fascist, and what do? They fucking
use
engage.
fascism.
They engage in fascist behavior. It's absolutely preposterous. Yeah, absolutely.
Aside
I
from
love how they like point to the history of Antifa, but the Antifa fought the Nazis in Europe. Like, okay, well, are the Hell's Angels actually from hell? I mean, like, you can't just like accept something as its label. Do the police always protect and serve?
Yeah.
Like, come on, like that's a preposterous argument. Like there's, and if there's truly no leadership to Antifa, if it's all just a bunch of individuals, then those individuals are going to engage in their own individual behavior, and there's still, I mean, like the very idea of punch a Nazi is in and of itself like fascist because opposition of viewpoints, like suppression of opposition of views, right? Like I can fucking disagree with a Nazi all fucking day long, but me going to the point of saying you don't have a right to say your thoughts and I'm going to engage in violence to silence you, that's fascism.
You see, I have no issue with punch a Nazi. It's when you try to tell them that they can't speak. No, you can say anything you damn well please. However, there may be consequences for what you say. So I have no issue with punching a racist dickhead.
See, I just don't even engage with them personally. Like,
I won't. Well, I can't say I won't. I don't have to.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I was stuck in that position, I very well might punch a Nazi.
They're not stuck in that position. They go out to seek it. Like if there's like a white pride or whatever, if there's some fucking, there's 20 fucking asshole nationalists that fucking get together in the state capitol and they have to fucking gather from 4 states to get that many of them. And then fucking 50 Antifa go there to fucking look for a fight to punch Nazis. They post about it, like, well, you're just being dumb. You're giving them attention. There's less of them, like, it blows my, like, the amount of like racist people like that the FBI are able to track in groups. Like it's such a fraction of humanity, like the focus on it is mind blowing to me.
True, but there's also many people that aren't necessarily in those groups that aren't on the radio because they're just closet racists,
Well, yeah, but that's a different. But those people aren't going to these marches.
True.
Oh yeah, there's lots of like just very passive racism.
They have their, I'm not trying
to say that there's not passive racism. Like.
But the actual asshole racists that are out there saying, no, you need to think like us and we're going to try to scare you and intimidate you.
Yeah.
They're a very small percentage of the population.
Yeah, I mean, I knew a gentleman who, when he would watch the TV and, Obama would come on, like he would, say, that's what's wrong with America is that, that N-word, in office, and that was the extent of like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like he's just a dumb asshole. You know what I mean? Like that's the extent of his racism is calling an elected official a derogatory term, seeing plenty of that nowadays. I'm not trying to justify it, and they're not completely the same, but they're kind of the same. I mean, there's not. I don't hear a lot of like Trump's a bad person because he's white. I don't hear much of that. It's mostly his actions and his words that people rightfully criticize, but still, using a derogatory term, over this elected official and trying to like simplify the argument down to, this person bad.
Orange man bad.
Speaking of N-word bad.
Speaking of derogatory terms, I saw a meme and it was actually, I couldn't help but laugh at it. It was discussing, it was from a Black Lives Matter protest or whatnot, but the gist of it was, since white people don't like being called white, they were offering different alternatives, and they gave a whole list of like synonyms for white. And my favorite one was Alabaster Americans.
Alabaster Americans.
I love the creativity of it. It's just,
Oh my god. The labeling of things is so very weird. We were discussing in our pre-chat, one of the podcasts I'd been listening to is Mo Facts with Adam Curry. And, oh fuck, I forgot what I was going to say about it. Oh, he doesn't, Mo doesn't like the term black or African American so much, right? And a term that he was using for a while was ADOS, American Descendant of African Slavery, right? Nice little, but somebody sort of tainted it in a way that he doesn't like that term as much anymore, but like, the terminology is so very interesting. Like you said, he's an ADOS, right? He's an American descendant of African slavery, right? A lot of people would call him an African American. When people like Charlize Theron and Elon Musk are from South Africa and have migrated to America and are much more technically African American, the terminology is very, very strange in that way sometimes.
Speaking of people that migrated, have you ever heard of the comedian Josh Blue?
No.
He has cerebral palsy. He actually won one of those TV shows of America's Top Comic or whatever it was. Anyway, he won it. His comedy is hilarious. And he had a bit about that he was born in South Africa and how his favorite thing to do now in America is when he gets pulled over by the cops, and if they ask him why he's pulling them over, is to say, yes, it's because I'm an African American.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, you have to look him up. He's just hilarious. He's no chill, but it's so insightful in the way that he says things. I mean, even making fun of his own disabilities. It's just it's great. Just his take on things. It's social issues and making it like you think of it, but you're able to laugh at it as you're thinking of it deeply.
Sure. Speaking of social issues, before we take a quick break so I can evacuate the coffee, I saw you watch the Dave Chappelle 846.
Yes,
Yeah.
I watched that TMZ. Yeah, that was
Powerful.
It really was. It was interesting seeing Dave Chappelle in that very raw, not trying to get a reaction comic. Just
Yeah. It reminded. Do you know who Bill Hicks is?
Yes, but it's been a long time since I've seen him.
Bill Hicks, like in his last special, like he knew he was dying. I don't think he'd made it public, but he had lung cancer and he'd quit smoking, and it was terminal. He knew he wasn't going to survive, and he made one last special, and it was very much like when you watch that special, like he's not going for laughs nearly as much as he's making social commentary. He wants to tell you what he thinks is fucked up about the world. Which Bill Hicks was always very much, like Carlin too, very much. We're always social critics. But he very much in that last special didn't seem to be going for laughs very much. And that's very much what it reminded me of. I think we might see an evolution a little bit in Dave Chappelle. Where he's just doing more maybe what you would call spoken word, where he's going to get up and he's going to just share his thoughts and throw in jokes once in a while and, have some funny things to say. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of an evolution of a social commentary evolve from his comedy.
Possible. And one thing I did like
he's
was...
already one of the greatest comedians ever. You
Oh,
know, he's
God.
already one of the greatest comedians of all fucking time. You know, so like, what is he going to go from there? You know, like Jesus Christ, how old is Half Baked? You know, like such a classic, amazing 20 plus, maybe 30, close to 30 years. Well, no, not 30. I'm
Close
almost
to
40.
25, maybe.
25-ish, yeah. God, we should look that up. I wonder if they've done a special 25. If he hasn't, oh God, I hope he does
and
some special.
what I
25th
enjoyed about
anniversary.
his most recent special thing that he did was when he like blasted John Lennon,
John Lemon.
about how he's like, why aren't comedians or celebrities second? And he's like, and he flat out looked at the crowd and he goes, "Do you really want to hear from people like me right now?"
Yeah.
He's admitting that, I might be a celebrity, but this isn't you don't want to hear from people like me. And I respect that, because that's what I hate about so many celebrities. It's they get on their platform, which I understand they have a platform, they're able to do it, but
No, I see, and I don't even think it was that. I think what he was saying is, how dare you tell me that I should get up and tell you what you want me to, what you want to
True.
hear. That's what he was really saying, because he did spend 20 plus minutes fucking speaking his fucking mind, just not doing it in the way that Don Lemon had wanted him to do
it. Yes.
Exactly. Like they want him to come out and give
Make
a
a big, huge
heartfelt
public
a
statement
killer
thingy.
give a killer Mike type fucking speech or something. And that was him fucking saying, fuck you for pushing your expectations of what I, as a celebrity, as a comedian, should fucking do in this time. And that was whatever it was, 30 plus minutes of him fucking doing that, giving his social commentary of, fuck you and fuck you too. And I hate saying this, that I didn't agree with everything he said. Like he just sort of skipped over that. At one point he was like, oh, they're not even really riots, but he was clearly fucking drinking, and it was entertaining, and I enjoyed it, and I laughed a couple times, and it was great. I highly recommend everybody watch it. It's just raw, and it's because it is that big fuck you for telling me what I should be saying.
I'll say it my way.
I'll say it my way. That's the reason everybody should watch it, exactly, because it's like it's this odd paradoxical thing of him telling you why what he says doesn't fucking matter. So, anyways, we're going to take a little break so I can pee and watch Dave Chappelle for the 12 seconds that we're gone. All right. For super easy editing, I'm going to go ahead and split this into 2 files and 2 podcasts. So go ahead and continue this conversation with David Cobb's part 2.